We finally arrive at the ultimate biological game changer today. Coming in at number 1 on our countdown is total melanocyte stem cell exhaustion. This is the deepest root cause of rapid physical aging we face, and it directly connects every single terrifying symptom we just covered. Think about a high-speed, heavy-duty office photocopier. It sits in the corner making perfectly crisp, beautifully dark copies for 20 straight years without a single glitch. Then one Tuesday afternoon, the internal ink cartridge catastrophically jams. The heavy machine doesn't power down. The mechanical gears keep violently grinding. But the machine suddenly starts spitting out hundreds of completely blank white pieces of paper. That internal jam is exactly what happens to your precious cellular stem cells. Your hair shaft keeps aggressively pushing out of your scalp, but the deep internal biological ink cartridge is permanently destroyed. We're looking directly at landmark clinical research published in the highly prestigious journal Nature. For decades, rush doctors thought severe stress causing sudden gray hair was just a silly old wives' tale. They practically laughed at you in the clinic. But scientists finally discovered exactly why extreme psychological and physiological stress turns hair white almost instantly. It all comes down to chronic sympathetic nervous system overdrive. When you're constantly stressed, when your aging joints ache terribly, when you're terrified about your rapidly failing health, your entire body chronically floods with a harsh chemical called noradrenaline. Your primitive brain genuinely believes you're being physically hunted by a predator 24 hours a day. Deep inside the exact middle of your hair follicle is a tiny microscopic holding tank called the bulge. That's where your highly sensitive melanocyte stem cells safely reside. Normally, they peacefully divide and slowly migrate down to the deep base of the hair root. That's where they perfectly color your brand new hair. But when that toxic wave of systemic noradrenaline hits them from chronic stress, it forces those delicate stem cells to aggressively overactivate. They go into absolute cellular panic. They rapidly divide and completely deplete their entire biological reserve. They detach from their safe holding tank and get hopelessly stuck in the upper follicle. They lose their ability to physically migrate down to the hair bulb. They completely fail to mature into pigment-producing cells. The biological ink cartridge is permanently jammed shut. The stem cells are physically trapped right under your scalp, while your hair rapidly spits out blank white strands. It's a severe structural failure of your central nervous system response. And here's the ultimate fatal mistake millions of seniors make when they see this sudden physical change. You look in the mirror, you panic, and you spend hundreds of dollars on gimmick reverse graying shampoos. You aggressively scrub these expensive snake oils into your scalp every single morning, hoping for a fast miracle. But you're completely wasting your hard-earned retirement money. Those liquid chemical gimmicks only temporarily coat the completely dead outer hair shaft. They do nothing to penetrate the skin and address the chronic cortisol spikes holding your precious stem cells hostage deep beneath the surface. You can't wash away severe systemic cellular panic with a cheap topical soap. You have to shut off the internal chemical alarm. Let me give you the rapid-fire golden rules to take back control of your aging cellular engine today. We have to repair the slashed electrical line and stop trapping your heavy winter zinc intake by bringing back bioavailable dietary copper. We must unlock the hidden gut vault and completely bypass your stomach using sublingual methylated B12 drops so your peripheral nerves can finally breathe again. We have to demand our hurried doctors test our free T3 to instantly restart the biological thyroid furnace. We must clear out the toxic internal bleach with powerful cellular antioxidants to protect your fragile heart arteries. And finally, we have to forcefully pull our bodies out of total sympathetic nervous overdrive to release those trapped, terrified stem cells before they vanish permanently. Listen to me closely right now. I know you're sitting there feeling entirely overwhelmed by how incredibly fast the years are suddenly accelerating. You look in the bathroom mirror and you just don't recognize the exhausted eyes staring back at you. You feel the terrifying heavy ache in your chest. You feel the agonizing numbness in your hands. You quietly give up the weekend hobbies you love because your failing physical body is violently stealing your independence. And the absolute worst part of it all is sitting in that cold, sterile clinic room while a rushed doctor casually dismisses your deepest fears as just a normal part of getting older. You worked entirely too hard your whole life to just fade away. You raised strong families, you built long careers, you paid your dues, and now, when you're supposed to be enjoying the freedom of your retirement years, you feel like a helpless prisoner in a failing physical shell. You sit up late at night in the dark, wondering if your best days are permanently behind you. You desperately want to get down on the floor and play with your grandkids without pulling a heavy muscle. You want to walk your golden retriever every single morning without feeling that crushing tightness in your chest. You aren't a broken-down machine ready for the scrapyard. The conventional medical system wants you to believe that physical decline is entirely unavoidable. They want to hand you a prescription pad full of expensive symptom managers and shove you out the clinic door in less than 10 minutes. I entirely reject that broken philosophy, and you need to reject it too. Your body is brilliantly designed. It's screaming at you right now because it desperately wants to survive. It's frantically begging you to repair the slashed electrical lines, fix the broken thermostat, and extinguish the internal bleach. When you restore those core biological mechanisms, the severe tingling completely stops. The terrifying chest tightness disappears. You step out of the helpless patient role and directly back into the driver's seat of your own life. I'm telling you today that you aren't crazy. You aren't just getting old. Your sudden shock of silver hair is a vascular system begging for immediate physiological help. You have the fundamental human right to fight aggressively for your daily independence. If you found a piece of your own medical story in this truth today, I want you to hit that subscribe button right now. We're completely changing the way we look at senior health and real metabolic longevity. We're building an unstoppable community of fiercely independent people who completely refuse to just fade away quietly into the background. I'm Dr. Arthur Brooks. Thank you for stepping into the clinic with me today. Keep fighting fiercely for your health, and I'll see you right back here in the next video. We start our countdown at number 5 with a dietary rule you adopted purely out of survival instinct. You hit your late 50s. You go in for a routine blood test. Your doctor frowns at your cholesterol numbers. They hand you a generic printed pamphlet. They tell you to watch your lipids, so you do exactly what you're told. You scrape the butter off your morning toast. You switch to dry, lifeless salads. You banish the expensive olive oil from your kitchen. You proudly buy products labeled fat-free. You genuinely think you're protecting your aging cardiovascular system. You think you're dodging a massive heart attack. But you're inadvertently launching a devastating biological attack right on your own scalp. We call this the low-fat lipid trap. Think about trying to drive a vintage automobile on a grueling cross-country road trip in the scorching summer heat. You have a full tank of gas. Your tires are perfectly inflated, but you purposefully drain every single drop of lubricating oil right out of the engine block before you leave your driveway. You push the gas pedal down to the floor. The dry metal parts violently grind together. The friction creates massive sparking heat. The entire engine block completely seizes up in a matter of minutes. It smokes and dies right on the highway. This catastrophic mechanical failure is exactly what's happening beneath the surface of your scalp right now. Deep inside the base of every single hair follicle lives a tiny specialized biological factory. These microscopic cells are called melanocytes. These fragile factories have one crucial demanding job. They tirelessly pump out the rich melanin pigment that gives your hair its natural, youthful color. But producing this pigment is an incredibly dirty and highly volatile operation. It generates constant metabolic waste. Your melanocytes live in a highly hostile internal war zone. They face massive daily oxidative stress just from you breathing and existing. To survive this toxic internal environment, they must build a thick physical shield. They painstakingly construct a complex lipid barrier entirely around themselves. They absolutely require a heavy, constant supply of specific dietary fatty acids from your food to build this vital cellular armor. When you drastically slash healthy fats from your daily meals, you rob your pigment cells of their essential structural integrity. You completely starve them of raw building materials. Without that thick fatty shield, your body rapidly undergoes a violent chemical process. We call this severe lipid peroxidation. It's essentially biological rusting happening at warp speed. The circulating free radicals literally punch physical holes right through the delicate cellular membranes of your unprotected melanocytes. The pigment cells physically rupture under the stress. They spill their vital contents and die off permanently. Once they're gone, they don't come back. The pigment factory shuts down forever. The fatal mistake 90% of well-meaning people make is completely cutting out incredibly healthy fats in a desperate, misguided panic. You avoid extra virgin olive oil. You skip the handful of raw walnuts. You treat nutrient-dense avocados like a deadly poison. You do it all to drop an arbitrary cholesterol number on a piece of paper. You leave your hair follicles totally defenseless against this internal friction. Your aging brain needs these high-quality fats to function. Your vascular system needs them to stay flexible. Reintroducing healthy monounsaturated fats stops this lipid peroxidation dead in its tracks. Coming in at number 4, we need to deeply examine your morning blender. You desperately want to detoxify your aging body. You read an inspiring article about the healing power of raw greens. You decide to go on an intense raw juice cleanse. You start packing your heavy glass blender with massive heaping handfuls of raw spinach and raw kale. You choke down a thick, dark green sludge every single morning. You pat yourself on the back. You genuinely think you're flooding your aging cells with pristine, life-extending nutrition. You think you're cleansing your liver. You're actually committing a massive internal nutritional heist. You're directly stealing vital, life-giving oxygen from your brain and your hair. Imagine walking up to a heavily fortified, locked steel bank vault. You know there are $10 million sitting right inside. That money could easily fix every single one of your financial problems. But you carelessly threw the only physical key deep into the ocean. The massive wealth is locked securely inside, but it's completely useless to you. You cannot touch a single dime. This is exactly what you're doing to the essential minerals hidden inside your food. Raw leafy greens contain an incredibly high concentration of natural chemical compounds called oxalates. Oxalates are brutal defense chemicals produced by the plants to stop insects from eating their leaves in the wild. When you consume a mountain of raw spinach, these microscopic, jagged crystals flood into your sensitive digestive tract. They aggressively seek out vital minerals. They violently bind to the dietary iron in your stomach. They form an incredibly dense and insoluble crystal complex. Your human digestive system simply cannot break this tight chemical grip. The iron is locked permanently in the vault. It passes right through your body, completely unabsorbed. Your hair follicle operates exactly like a tiny manufacturing factory. It requires a constant and completely steady supply of oxygen to function properly. Your body delivers this life-giving oxygen using a specific, deeply stored form of iron called ferritin. Ferritin acts like a microscopic, high-speed cargo ship. It delivers oxygen directly to the deeply buried root of your hair strand. When you block your iron absorption with raw oxalates, your serum ferritin levels completely plummet to the absolute floor. Without sufficient iron, your blood simply cannot carry adequate oxygen up to your scalp. Your hair root literally suffocates. It goes into a dangerous hypoxic state. The follicle enters a pure panic. It immediately drops the biologically expensive process of making color just to keep the base strand alive. I saw this quiet devastation firsthand with a patient of mine named Arthur. Arthur is 71 years old. He spent 40 grueling years as a proud union carpenter. He built entire neighborhoods with his bare, calloused hands. After he finally retired, he spent every waking hour out in his garage. He absolutely loved working on his heavy wooden lathe. It was his daily peace. But a few years ago, things took a terrifying turn. Arthur developed a profound, heavy shortness of breath just walking down the short driveway to his mailbox. His thick salt and pepper hair suddenly turned stark brittle white in a matter of mere months. Worst of all, his strong hands started shaking violently. He couldn't hold his sharp carving tools steady anymore. He couldn't safely measure his intricate cuts. He had to pack up and sell his beloved woodworking lathe. Arthur lay awake night after night. He stared at the dark bedroom ceiling, sweating. He was absolutely convinced he was in the early fatal stages of Lou Gehrig disease. He thought his central nervous system was failing him permanently. He came into my clinic completely terrified and resigned to his fate. I immediately ran a comprehensive advanced blood panel. Arthur didn't have a terminal neurological disease. He had a catastrophic ferritin crash. He was blending completely raw spinach and kale into his morning health smoothies for 2 solid years. This was his fatal mistake. He thought raw was automatically better. He completely blocked his own iron uptake. We changed everything immediately. We threw his raw green sludge right down the drain. We reintroduced highly bioavailable heme iron through quality cuts of grass-fed red meat. I taught him that he must gently cook and steam his leafy greens. Heat physically breaks down the rigid oxalate crystals. Lightly steaming your greens completely destroys that dangerous chemical lock. It opens the bank vault. Within 6 weeks, his massive ferritin crash entirely reversed. The rich oxygen rushed back into his deprived tissues. His hands completely stopped shaking. His terrible shortness of breath vanished. He drove out and bought a brand new woodworking lathe. A few short months later, his stark white roots began growing in remarkably dark again. You must unlock the vault. You must lightly cook your greens. We hit number 3 on our countdown today with a common plastic bottle sitting right inside your medicine cabinet. You watch the evening news. You hear terrifying reports about a brutal cold and flu season sweeping the country. You desperately want to protect your aging immune system. You drive straight to the local pharmacy. You buy a massive, heavy bottle of high-dose zinc supplements. You swallow a thick, chalky pill every single morning. You genuinely think you're building an impenetrable biological fortress. You think you're doing the highly responsible thing for your senior health. You're actually triggering a massive systemic mineral collapse. We call this the zinc-copper collapse. Think about a heavy wooden playground seesaw. It's balanced perfectly in the middle. Now imagine a heavy crane dropping a massive 500-pound solid granite boulder squarely onto the left side. The heavy side slams violently down into the dirt. The right side immediately rockets dangerously high up into the air. The heavy metal hinge in the middle strains and physically snaps under the sudden, brutal pressure. The entire structure completely breaks apart. This violent, sudden mechanical imbalance is exactly what high isolated doses of zinc do to the delicate trace mineral ratio inside your gut. Your hair absolutely requires a specific biological spark plug to synthesize melanin. This complex spark plug is a powerful enzyme called tyrosinase. Tyrosinase is absolutely mandatory for producing your natural hair color. But this vital enzyme fundamentally requires the trace mineral copper to actually turn on and function properly. Without adequate copper, the entire cellular assembly line permanently halts. When you flood your highly sensitive digestive system with massive daily doses of zinc, you trigger a severe defensive reaction. Your gut wildly upregulates a specific binding protein called metallothionein. This specific gut protein chemically traps all dietary copper. It holds it securely hostage right inside the intestinal wall. It totally prevents the vital copper from entering your bloodstream. It flushes the essential mineral right out of your body through your daily waste. The fatal mistake so many make is blindly swallowing 50 milligrams of isolated zinc on a completely empty stomach. You do this aggressively for months on end. You never even think to balance it with vital copper-rich foods like liver or dark chocolate. You completely shut down your internal tyrosinase production. Your hair follicle entirely forgets how to make color. Your roots turn aggressively gray. If you're sitting there realizing your daily immune supplement might be the exact thing destroying your hair color, I need you to take action right now. Type the word copper in the comments below so I know you're finally seeing the hidden chemical connection. We drop down to number 2 on our countdown with the most aggressively promoted weight loss trend of the entire decade. You step on the cold bathroom scale, you look down and feel incredibly frustrated by that stubborn layer of visceral belly fat. You start reading trendy online health blogs. You decide to jump right into aggressive intermittent fasting. You forcefully skip your morning breakfast. You entirely push through your intense lunch hunger. You drink massive glasses of plain tap water to trick your empty stomach. You think you're activating deep cellular autophagy. You think you're literally reversing the aging process. You're actually causing a massive, raging chemical fire right inside your scalp. We call this the fasting peroxide bleach. Imagine a heavy industrial backup generator. It clicks on loudly during a massive city blackout. It runs perfectly fine for a few hours, but then you force it to run at absolute maximum capacity for days on end without a single drop of cooling fluid. The heavy machine runs violently hot. The internal metal starts warping and shooting out bright electrical sparks. Eventually, those hot, rogue sparks ignite the surrounding dry walls. The entire building burns straight to the ground. This raging internal fire is exactly what prolonged fasting does to your delicate scalp cells. Human hair follicles naturally produce a highly toxic corrosive chemical called hydrogen peroxide. Yes, it's the exact same harsh liquid bleach teenagers buy at the drugstore to artificially lighten their hair. Your cells produce this highly reactive bleach as a totally normal biological byproduct of daily cellular metabolism. Under normal resting conditions, your body handles this toxic waste perfectly. It relies heavily on a powerful internal fire extinguisher called the catalase enzyme. Catalase specifically targets and neutralizes this dangerous internal peroxide. But extreme aggressive fasting radically downregulates your natural resting catalase production. You essentially strip away the vital cooling fluid. The fatal mistake is pushing your fragile, aging body into fasting for 18 grueling hours while pounding endless cups of harsh black coffee. You're just trying to suppress your raging appetite. But the excessive caffeine combined with biological starvation massively spikes your internal cortisol stress hormones. This violently floods your scalp with uncontrolled oxidative stress. The toxic hydrogen peroxide builds up rapidly inside the tiny hair bulb. Without the powerful catalase fire extinguisher to stop it, the chemical physically bleaches your hair completely white from the very inside out. I watched this exact internal devastation completely break a wonderful patient of mine named Helen. Helen is 68 years old. She worked tirelessly on her aching feet for 30 long years. She was a deeply dedicated public school cafeteria manager. She fed thousands of hungry neighborhood children, but she was unknowingly starving her own fragile cells. After finally retiring, she looked forward to one simple daily joy. She absolutely loved taking long, peaceful evening walks with her beautiful golden retriever. But suddenly she hit a massive wall of crushing afternoon fatigue. Her legs felt like heavy, wet lead. She couldn't even stand up from her living room couch. Worse yet, rapid chaotic patches of stark silver hair exploded across her scalp almost overnight. Her sweet dog would drop the heavy leash right at her feet and politely whine. She couldn't take him out. Helen sat alone in her parked car one afternoon and secretly cried. She stared at her rapidly whitening hair in the small rearview mirror. She was absolutely convinced she had early onset bone marrow cancer. She thought her physical body was permanently failing her. She finally came to see me in a state of absolute quiet despair. We looked very closely at her daily routine. Helen was aggressively fasting until 3 in the afternoon every single day just to drop 10 stubborn pounds. She was completely starving her exhausted, aging cells of vital morning protein. She lacked the essential amino acids needed to quickly build the catalase enzyme. She entirely crashed her internal fire extinguisher. We completely threw out her punishing restrictive fasting window. I had her eat a nutrient-dense, high-protein meal within 1 single hour of waking up. This simple restorative morning fuel stabilized her surging cortisol instantly. It rapidly restarted her internal catalase production line. The toxic internal bleaching stopped dead in its tracks. Her profound afternoon fatigue completely vanished in less than a week. Her roots began growing in with their rich, natural color once again. Most importantly, Helen got her precious life back. She has the abundant physical energy to proudly walk her golden retriever every single evening. We finally arrive at the ultimate game changer today. Coming in at number 1 is the most dangerous hidden mechanism secretly destroying your vibrant hair color at the fundamental genetic level. You visit your primary care physician. They check your resting blood pressure and frown at the high numbers. You desperately want to avoid a lifetime prescription of harsh beta blockers. You read popular health blogs praising a strict plant-based diet. You decide to make a massive lifestyle change. You completely throw out all the nutrient-dense red meat and fresh eggs from your kitchen. You switch entirely to a strict daily diet of heavy starchy beans and massive plates of vegetables. You genuinely think you're making the smartest clinical decision for your aging cardiovascular system. You think you're radically extending your life, but you're secretly triggering a catastrophic blockade right inside your own cellular blueprint. We call this the vitamin B12 homocysteine spiral. Think about a bustling central post office, right in the absolute heart of a major metropolitan city. Every single day, thousands of urgent letters and crucial paychecks absolutely must go out on strict delivery routes. These precise daily deliveries keep the entire regional economy functioning. Now imagine an angry, chaotic mob storms the building and permanently destroys the massive central sorting machine. The physical delivery trucks are sitting right outside in the lot. The hard-working drivers are completely ready to go, but the vital packages are piled violently high in massive, chaotic heaps on the concrete floor. Nothing gets sorted. Nothing gets delivered. The vital delivery routes are permanently lost. The entire city economy rapidly grinds to a devastating, painful halt. This system-wide logistical failure is exactly what happens deep inside your delicate cells when you lack one highly specific essential vitamin. Vitamin B12 is the absolute master conductor of your entire nervous system. It's uniquely concentrated almost exclusively in high-quality animal proteins. Deep inside your fragile hair follicle, the highly active stem cells constantly require a massive, uninterrupted daily supply of B12 to successfully undergo rapid DNA synthesis. These specialized cells divide and replicate faster than almost any other tissue in your human body. They absolutely must successfully copy their exact genetic blueprint every single time they create a new hair strand. But a hidden, agonizing B12 deficiency triggers a violent, unstoppable chain reaction. It aggressively spikes your blood levels of a highly toxic and deeply damaging amino acid called homocysteine. High circulating homocysteine doesn't just sit there quietly. It acts exactly like microscopic jagged shards of broken glass flowing forcefully right through your fragile senior blood vessels. It violently scrapes the delicate endothelial lining of your tiny, intricate capillaries. It causes rampant systemic cellular damage across your entire body. More importantly, this toxic, heavy accumulation completely halts the critical process of DNA synthesis right inside your hair follicle. The pigment-producing cells physically can't divide. They absolutely can't replicate their genetic code. They completely shut down their delicate operations out of pure survival mode. This devastating internal cellular blockade leads to rapid, aggressive, and totally permanent graying. The fatal mistake millions of seniors make every single morning is relying entirely on heavily processed, fortified breakfast cereals to hit their daily B12 quota. You pour yourself a large bowl of dry, crunchy flakes. You splash some almond milk on top. You simply assume you're perfectly safe because the colorful cardboard box says it contains 100% of your daily vitamins. But you're deeply ignoring the physical reality of an aging digestive tract. As you cross 50, your stomach naturally produces significantly less strong hydrochloric acid. Your aging gut becomes physically far too weak to properly extract the synthetic cheap vitamins sprayed chemically onto those processed cereal flakes. You consume the fortified food, but your actual blood levels of active B12 completely plummet to the floor. You're utterly ignoring the absolute clinical need for a highly bioavailable sublingual methylcobalamin supplement. You absolutely must use a liquid drop under your tongue that cleanly bypasses your weakened senior digestion entirely. This directly floods your cells with the exact active form they desperately need to restart DNA synthesis. Let's do a rapid-fire conversational recap of our Golden Clinic rules today so you can take immediate action. We must completely stop the lipid peroxidation. Don't fear high-quality fats. Pour that rich extra virgin olive oil over your meals to protect your cellular shield. We must violently break the oxalate iron lock. Throw out the raw green smoothies immediately. Lightly steam your spinach to free the hidden vital oxygenating minerals. We must stop the massive zinc-copper collapse. Never blindly swallow high isolated doses of immune zinc completely on an empty stomach. Always actively pair it with vital trace copper-rich foods. We absolutely must extinguish the fasting internal peroxide fire. Stop aggressively starving your aging body until the late afternoon. Eat a nutrient-dense protein right when you wake up to rapidly build your catalase enzymes. And finally, we must aggressively stop the toxic homocysteine spiral. You can't rely on dry fortified cereals. You must secure a clean, deeply bioavailable sublingual vitamin B12 to save your genetic blueprint. I know exactly how utterly exhausting it feels to constantly fight your aging body every single day. I know the quiet, heavy fear that slowly sets in when you look in the cold bathroom mirror and stop recognizing the tired face staring right back at you. You silently worry that you're losing your physical independence. You casually cancel weekend trips with your busy family because your energy is completely gone. You worry you'll become a tragic, heavy burden on your own busy, grown children. You're not vain for simply wanting your youthful hair color back. You're simply craving the abundant, vital energy and the deep cellular health that a rich, dark hair color truly represents. You absolutely deserve to walk your sweet dog around the block without crushing chest fatigue. You deserve to fully enjoy your quiet, daily woodworking or gardening hobbies without shaking weak hands. You deserve to proudly drive your own car and live your senior years with vibrant, powerful dignity. You absolutely refuse to become invisible. You spent your entire life working incredibly hard for your family. Now it's your time to finally reclaim your own biology. Your body isn't fundamentally broken. It's simply crying out for the exact raw materials it needs to repair the hidden internal damage. You hold the ultimate power to rewrite your entire cellular health story, starting this very minute. If you found real, honest clinical value in our 10-minute clinic session today, I deeply appreciate you taking a quick moment to subscribe to the channel. It tells me you fundamentally trust the hard science. It tells me you're fully ready to actively reclaim your physical cellular independence alongside me. We're building a massive, strong community of seniors who refuse to fade quietly into the gray background. Gray hair isn't a stubborn, permanent life sentence passed down by bad family genetics. It's a highly solvable structural nutritional puzzle just waiting to be fixed. Keep your incredible vital energy high. Protect your deeply vulnerable cells. I'm Dr. Arthur Brooks, and I'll see you right here in our very next clinic session.